Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering a topic that's relevant to a lot of players this week. We're going to be looking at the Dragon times 2 speed frenzy and sort of breaking down mathematically, one, how does the speed frenzy influence your odds, and two, I ran about 400 to 500 runs this week, and also one of my clanmates has run about 600 runs, so we're going to be breaking down the information and the results of that to see whether or not we're actually meeting the expected averages. So it should be a good little exercise for us just to see, does the game math add up to the actual reality, and also just for people who are interested, how much of the actual runs did it result in me gaining a speed piece that I could actually use somewhere. So let's get started with that. Okay, so when we have a non times 2, as with most things where there is an undisclosed amount of probability, there tends to be even distribution. So what we mean by that is there's a even chance you could get any of the 9 possible pieces. Now, from the Forge, there is a similar concept with armor pieces, where we can effectively get twice the amount of chance to get a particular piece of armor using that charm. That is coded in the game, so from that we can determine essentially how they program times 2 and times 10 events into the game. And that's what we're going to explain here. So normally, if you're running times 2, if you're running without a times 2, you'd have basically an 11.11% chance of getting any one piece. This is basically worked out between taking the 1 divided by 9 standard maths. Now when it's a times 2, what essentially happens is instead of 1 divided by 9, you'd go 2 divided by 9. Which gives you 22.2%. Obviously 11.1 plus 11.1 is 22.2. And then what ends up happening is you take the remainder of the percentage chance out of 1. So in this instance it would be 77.78%, and then that gets divided amongst the remaining lots. So what you end up finding is speed will increase by 11.1% because you've doubled your odds. And the other sets will then compensate by losing a portion of that 11% on each piece. So what it basically means is when I'm running in a times 2 event of any type of artifact set, I should be getting 22% chance rounded down for getting that piece. So that's just roughly how it works. You'll probably find on the Discord and on the website the breakdown of how what's the chance you get a specific piece, like a 6-star, 5-star legendary, and that's what we're going to look at next now. So in this chart I've got approximately about 468 results of running Dragon 25 specifically. Now I know people will say 24 is better for armor and sort of quantities. I prefer running 25 just because it gives you the highest chance to get the 6-star legendaries. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get that, as we'll see in the comparison with my clanmate. However, that's my personal preference. 24 is perfectly fine. 20 is good if you're trying to run for event points or for the tournaments as well, or if you're just not able to do the more difficult waves quickly. So how did I do? So in this top one here, we've got basically the percentage breakdown of all the different sets. So we can see rare wise, I got around about 52.35% of all of my pieces were rare, about 33% were epic, and 14.32% were legendary. So what I've done is I've actually put along the right hand side here the expected outcomes based on the mathematical data mine that we've got. So on average I should be expecting to get about 4.14% of my runs as a 6-star legendary piece. So I'm actually above that average on my 468. So I've got 4.91%, which probably means I've got 1 extra. We're dealing with still, to be honest, quite a small sample size at 468. I'd have loved to have run more Dragon runs, but no energy packs means I'm not burning all my gems. So 4.1%. So on my numbers, I actually, for legendary pieces, I was above average. And it's the same thing for epic. I was a little bit above average, but we're talking very small amounts. So immediately we can see that actually the odds that we've data mined from the game translate to real world results. These look on par, if not a little bit better for me at the moment, because I've just got 6-star and 5-star legendary pieces much more often than I should have. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is what is the set distribution breakdown. So on the columns here, I've got all the different sets possible. So we can see that roughly speaking, speed is at 19.66%. Now remember, I said in the previous sheet we should be looking at 22%. So I'm a bit below that average. Not enough for it to be like the times 2 isn't working, tinfoil hat theory, but enough for me to go, that's a bit unlucky, I didn't roll as high as I could have. So when we start breaking that down into actual volume, we can see that I got 92 speed pieces out of 468. So that basically works out, I should get an average across my non-speed pieces of around about 47. So in terms of difference, in terms of the times 2, I'm about 2 speed pieces below what I should be expecting to get. Which again, it's not enough for it to be statistically significant. It basically means the times 2 speed is definitely working. I just got a bit unlucky. And again, you can see in the next set of results that I've got how much this varies a lot. In terms of the other pieces then, what have we got? So we can see out of all of these runs, I managed to get 4 6-star legendary speed pieces and 9 5-star legendary. Obviously legendary is what we want, most amount of sub rolls with speed. So how does this look in terms of a visual? Charts like this are a very quick way to see the math line up, and we can quite clearly see speed is 100% times 2. It's almost double anything else. I seem to have picked up a lot of frost and destroy, which is not terrible. Destroy very good for Scarab King. Not a lot of days, which is great. We don't like days pieces. That's the worst set of all these possible ones. And the others are sort of within 10 points of each other. In terms of legendary pieces, we can roughly see that they are following that pattern of legendary, the least chance in a decent manner. So yeah, so far what we've proved is the data matches up with the probability averages, and the way that we've figured this would work, it seems to be quite the case. If we look at the different numbers, lifesteal is about 9.4, accuracy is a little bit lower at 7.2, we've got stalwart at 9, avenging up. You're going to get variability. You probably need to run this about 3,000 times to really get good confidence, because I think 468, when you've got 9 different possible data sets with double the odds on each one, there's a lot of permutations that you have to go through to actually make sure that you get a good sample size. So another thing of interest I think people might find is, out of all of these pieces, how many of them did actually result in something that I'm looking for? When we're running speed, we're looking for speed substat, on speed main stat, or speed boots. That's what we're looking for. So I did a quick little calculation here of all my data, and I said, okay, how many pieces in this row had a speed artifact set with a speed substat? So we've got 468, remember, and out of that 468 we were able to collect 21 pieces. So the important thing for people to realize here is dragon running for speed pieces is a long process. I know Senti has done some math in the Discord where he's worked out that probably you're better off buying a speed pack than you are running dungeons and buying energy to run those dungeons, just because the odds of you getting a good piece out of a speed pack is greater at a lower cost. That's obviously if you're spending. If you're not spending, as a free-to-play player, don't expect to suddenly rock 30 dragon runs and get yourself a speed piece. We see it all the time in Discord, people going, I've run 30 dragon runs, only got 2 speed pieces, where's the times 2 speed? You've got to run this thousands of times to get yourself good pieces. Now I got lucky in this run, I managed to get 1 quad roll, but outside of that I think I may have got 1 other double roll out of 468. Now obviously 468 at 20 energy per run, that's a lot of energy burned for not a lot of gain. But it's just, you've got to basically pay the tax man before you get the results. So how does this differ with another person that ran it? So let's take a look at that next. Okay, so a clanmate of mine has run more runs than me, and what I wanted to do here is just bring in more results so that we could see whether or not it did actually make a big difference or not, as I was a bit concerned that 468 was a bit low. So he's managed to run 692 runs here. So we've plugged it into the same spreadsheet, and we can see in his situation, he's higher rolled rare 5-star, unfortunately for him, but he's slightly low rolled the rest of it. And again, he was running Dragon 25 like me. In an ideal world, I would have run 24 for more data points, but time's a bit precious this week. So what do we see here that's different now? The one big number we see is down the bottom. It looks like my clanmate has unfortunately got unlucky with his speed times 2. He is a bit under the average. Now, What you got to remember is he's run 692 runs here. 14 out of 692 is not a substantial number. He could literally run another 50 and get 14 more pieces than he should get in that 50, and then it evens itself out. But it's just as an example here to show you that just because you've run 468 and you're on point, and then 692 you're not on point, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that you need to run a lot of these runs, like probably 3,000, to actually know 100% whether there's something wrong or not. And I would say very confidently there is nothing wrong with these numbers. They are what I would expect to see. So again, we're looking at the numbers here: 18%, 9%. For the majority of the pieces are somewhere between 8 to 9%. And if you remember on the previous sheet here, we were looking at 9.72%. So what we can basically say is half of the sets have low rolled and the other half of the sets have high rolled. Like Toxic has high rolled considerably. That's just odds and averages. You still got a 1 in 10 chance of getting one of those things, kind of thing. How does that look in terms of a chart? Well, we can see again, speed is higher. In his instance, Toxic, he's got that's a bit of an outlier. Toxic is quite close to being a lot higher, but again, speed is still high. He's still getting a good distribution of rare, epic, and legendaries, albeit a little bit lower. How has he managed to do in terms of speed on speed substat? Let's take a look here. So again, what are we running at? 692. How many has he managed to achieve? Let's just pull this in. So he's got 37. So he's got a lot of pieces. Now obviously you've got to roll these speed substats, but it just goes to show you that you've got to run volume to get results out of the dragon runs. But there's no tinfoil hat theories about ×2 doesn't work or any of those kind of things. You just got to run it a lot more often to see the results. So I hope that was interesting for people to see how we did and how the ×2 events works. If they do another one of these, which they've done 3 now, I think off the top of my head, this is the best point to be running dungeons in any progress of the game, really. As long as you can run it consistently and fast, ×2 speed is probably going to influence your account more than anything else. Through a combination of different things, this weekend I'm going to be able to rebuild most of my account and gain about 15 speed on my speed lead, taking her up to 355 speed. That's huge for arena right now for me, where I'm stuck around about silver 4 3v3. I can actually push probably up into gold 1, gold 2 with the difference of that 15 speed. So hope that was interesting. Next week we'll be getting back onto the speed topic that we were covering last week, but we just needed a bit more time to make sure that we were producing good content and accurate information on there. If you enjoyed this content, please give the channel a subscribe, like, and if you have any comments below, please let me know what you think. Thanks again, and I'll see you next video.